Numerous citations can be drawn from ancient cultures in which human beings hold full control over their mind, body, and soul. When one takes the instance of the Eastern countries, several gurus are experts in this field, as they can control their body and mind with simple techniques of yoga and strong internal training. By doing so, they are able to reach a state which cannot be achieved by normal human beings.
Believe it or not, these talents are extremely rare but are well documented, and it may be possible that our brains are the key to unlocking these abilities. Here for your pleasure and consideration is the top 35 extraordinary human powers and abilities.
Magnokinesis. Magnokinesis, or magnetism manipulation, is a rare ability that users can generate, control, and manipulate magnetism in all its forms, whether it's natural, organic, or artificial. They can even create and control magnetic waves and eventually metal. Magnokinetic users can affect any matter that is magnetic by manipulating and controlling them as they will, and then directly use them to manipulate other things. Geokinesis. Geokinesis, or terrakinesis, is an extremely rare ability that grants the user the ability to manipulate all forms of earth, such as sand, minerals, and rocks. Users can use this power to create earthquakes and fissures and tear the earth open. Geokinetics use electromagnetism and electrostatics to manipulate minerals. Alteration in mineral compositions, microseismic disruptions via the initiation of deformations in the Earth's surface, called faults, and an initializing movement of that fault.
Sonokinesis. Sonokinesis is the psychic ability to create and manipulate sound and sound waves. Users proficient in sonokinesis can create and modify sound waves to mimic, intensify, hush, and distort, as well as warp, strengthen, echo, speed up, and slow down sound. Sound can be a deadly weapon and a versatile tool. At around 120 decibels, sound becomes a disabling weapon if applied for a long enough period of time. At low frequencies, sound is potentially fatal to living beings by causing internal damage, while high frequencies cannot be heard by normal human ears, but can be used for sonar-like effects. Since sound vibrations can travel through the air, ground, water, and any form of medium, defense by using physical barriers is difficult. The vibrations can also affect at a molecular level. Cryokinesis. Cryokinesis can be defined as using psychokinesis to manipulate the molecular speed of an object. Slowing of the molecules produces cold, as cold can be defined as a lack of molecular energy. By doing this, users can reduce the kinetic energy of atoms and thus make things cold, for various effects and combinations. Cryokinesis is less commonly known compared to its opposite, pyrokinesis. While a cryokinetic has a great deal of control in lowering temperatures, they cannot create ice unless there is moisture of some sort nearby. Cryokinesis is one of the earliest naturally manifesting psychic abilities, sometimes manifesting as early as age 4.
Chronokinesis. Chronokinesis is the psychic ability to control one's perception of time and maybe time itself through the mind. In other words, one would accelerate their particles to slow down time, or in which they are able to manipulate the forces separating the third dimension and the fourth dimension to essentially put one part of their presence within the plane of space-time, enabling them to manipulate both space and time to the extent of their brain's capacity. Many theories have been put up discussing the possibility of humans having the power to have control over time, in which one either accelerates their particles to make everything around them move beneath their superhuman reaction time, Another theory is a human's power to unlock the full capacity of the mind, in which one has the ability to manipulate the fourth dimension of space-time itself. Teleportation. Teleportation is when matter is dematerialized at one location and recreated at another location without traversing the space between them. To achieve teleportation, molecules may have to travel at light speed, or may be realigned mentally at target destination, or may use quantum superposition, in which the user teleports by replacing and restocking energy in a spatial behavior. A port is the paranormal transference of a person from one place to another, or an appearance of a person from an unknown source. Te al-Ard, also meaning folding up of the earth, is the name for teleportation in the mystical form of Islamic religious and philosophical tradition.
Atmokinesis. Atmokinesis is the psychic ability to manipulate the flux of the atmosphere with the mind at will, resulting in a change of weather patterns and formation of freak weather conditions. This ability allows the generation of any natural weather condition, from fog and rain to thunderstorms, lightning, hailstorms, blizzards, and even hurricanes. This ability is often linked to the user's emotions, generating lightning or hail unintentionally when the user is angry, high-velocity winds when they are afraid, to sunshine when they're happy. Atmokinesis often comes with a psychic restriction preventing manipulation of anything other than weather and climate patterns, as the capability to generate holes in the ozone layer or the like would pose the possibility of bringing harm to the user. Technopathy or cyberpathy. Technopathy or cyberpathy is the psychic ability to sense and control the functions of electronic devices requiring only minimal physical or mental contact with the device, to potentially override security codes or manipulate any type of electronics. The ability to manipulate electronic machines has been recorded since their introduction as far back as the early 1900s. Users can control the flow of intricate machinery and can even allow them to assemble or disengage their programming at will. Technopaths can operate most technology just by touching or looking. A variation on electricity manipulation, the user controls specific electrons and instructs them on which functions to engage or disengage. Some users might even be able to use these electric impulses to gently control smaller metal parts. Intangibility. The power of intangibility is the ability to phase through solid matter without harm. Intangibility is when a person changes their molecular structure to pass through them. How this is done varies between slipping partially into other dimensions, willing the atoms to make an opening for them, being able to make their own atoms move between other atoms, being non-physical being of energy, or by vibrating their molecules into a new quantum frequency.
Hydrokinesis. Hydrokinesis is the paranormal psychic ability to control and manipulate the movement of liquid water using the power of the mind. Hydrokinetics are shown to be able to control, manipulate, and alter the molecular state of water, and being able to manipulate the surrounding water in the atmosphere. In most instances, hydrokinetic beings can control water, and some can actually become water, with some actually being able to survive in deep areas of the sea and hold their breath for extreme amount of time. In some cases, hydrokinetics are often shown to control the molecular state of water, being able to manipulate the surrounding water in the air, as stated, but also freezing the water and making clouds of steam. Most people can use hydrokinesis to pull moisture from the air and duplicate the moisture into liquid and then manipulate it, control the hydraulics and machinery, and even manipulate the molecular structure in water itself to cause it to freeze, heat, or possibly even gelify.
Invisibility. Invisibility is the inability to be perceived by the sense of sight. If the psychic aura deflects, distorts light, or sheathes the user in invisible energy, the user is rendered unseen to the naked eye. It can be accomplished by a few ways, and depending on the way that it is done, it can either be psionic in nature or biological. The ancient rumors of human invisibility have been whispered throughout the generations. Deep beyond the furthest reaches of time, the ancients had discovered the keys of human invisibility and could walk unseen among people. They'd vanish from sight, even in the middle of a crowd, only to reappear as they wished and desired.
Biokinesis. Biokinesis is the psychic ability to alter the DNA structure and body functions of oneself and others. A biokinetic can alter his or her own body as well. An example of this would be increasing their own physical attributes dramatically and spontaneously healing even potential fatal wounds. However, making an error can have huge negative side effects. With this ability, one can control life on a cellular level, including but not limited to genetic alterations and physical distortion and augmentations of biological functions. They can cause cells to augment to induce advanced or declined biological healing, induce diseases, induce appearance alteration, manipulate pheromones, and even increase physiological and psychological maturity.
Chlorokinesis. Chlorokinesis, formerly known as agrokinesis, is the paranormal ability to mentally manipulate plant life, including vines, plants, moss, flowers, and fungus, with the mind. The user can also communicate either telepathically, by speaking verbally, or by touching it physically, with all forms of plant life. One could also grow plants to enormous proportions in nearly any environment. A chlorokinetic can also sometimes have a bit of clairvoyant ability, but only in regards to plants. The plants can speak to a chlorokinetic, conveying sounds, images, and sometimes even the entire passing of a sequential event.
Mental possession. Mental possession is the ability to take control of another living being and its mind as if it were their own. Users with this ability would be able to steal their motor functions and senses, while the other person would lie dormant within their subconscious mind. Hypnosis is another ability to place others into a state in which they would obey the commands of the hypnotist or believe whatever the hypnotist told them. Some forms of this are far stronger than others. Memory erasure and alteration can also be accomplished hypnotically.
Optokinesis. Optokinesis, illusion, or simply the psychedelic effect, is a faculty of illusion in which one can induce psychedelic hallucinations in subjects at will. Optokinesis can cause illusions by changing what people see, cause themselves to see in different aspects, or change optic temporarily so their sight is behind actual time. Vision can be distorted so things look like they were moving opposite of their actual direction, called the parallax effect. This psychic ability causes the subject's imagination to overact, resulting in paranoia and delirium. With this ability, they can even project sight to others, or selectively see what others see, as they can control entirety of motor and sensory functions used by the eyes of others.
Tetrachromancy. Tetrachromancy is the ability to see light from 4 distinct sources. An example of this is the animal kingdom, the zebrafish, which can see light from the red, green, blue, and ultraviolet section of the light spectrum. Humans are normally trichromats, having 3 types of cone cells that receive light from either the red, green, or blue parts of the light spectrum. Each cone can pick up about 100 gradations of color, and the brain combines colors and gradations so that there are about 1 million distinguishable hues coloring your world.
Thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is the ability to control one's own body, i.e. the release of hormones and chemicals in response to outside external conditions. Humans have been able to adapt to a great diversity of climates, from hot and humid to cold, freezing. Psychic power and mental manipulation are indeed helpful, but this ability is mostly composed of physical, not psychic methods. Electrokinesis. Electrokinesis is the psychic power to manipulate energies, electrical currents, and generate electricity within the mind. Some people can conduct and store electrical energy within their body and drain electrical devices and machines, with application ranging from high voltage shocks to more complex abilities such as hacking, electromagnetism generation, and constructs. The user is able to control electrons in a variety of effects, making electrokinesis one of the most powerful and versatile elements.
Pyrokinesis. Pyrokinesis is defined as the ability to excite or speed up an object's atoms, thereby increasing its thermal energy until it ignites. The term is derived from the Greek word pi, fire, and kinesis, motion. Pyrokinesis is often confused with pyromancy, which is the art of divination using fire, similar to crystal ball gazing. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that this ability is real, though many people involved in the field of parapsychology believe it exists. There may be a connection between this alleged ability and the various reports of spontaneous human combustion.
Enhanced strength. There have been several instances of enhanced strength, like the ability to lift, push, or haul weights far greater than one's normal capability. Most of them are seen in emergency situations and are well documented but controversial in the medical community. The first documented report was in 1982, when the jack under Tony Carvalho's 64 Impala slipped and his 50-year-old mother Angela lifted and supported the 3,500-pound car long enough for the neighbours to drag him out from under. Scientists believe these incidents are possible because the muscles of the human body are over-engineered, and when flooded with extra adrenaline from the shock and reaction, nutrients can handle a lot more strain than normal. Flight. Flight is the psionic ability to move oneself through the air without any apparent means of propulsion. It is likely that this ability is a limited form of telekinesis which can only be applied to the motion of the possessor rather than the other objects. This ability can allow the possessor to hover in the air as well as travel at supersonic speeds. It also appears to lend the possessor some measure of physical protection from the effects of high-speed air travel, while they appear unaffected by cold while flying, and their eyes and other mucous membranes are protected from drying out. Whether this imperviousness is psychological or psionic in nature is unknown.
Bilocation. Bilocation can be defined as the simultaneous presence of a person in two different places. Numerous witnesses connected to the Christian religious tradition have reported events of bilocation, which have been attributed to many saints. Although it is uncommon, bilocation is an ancient phenomenon. It is claimed to have been experienced and even predicted by mystics, saints, monks, holy persons, and magical adepts.
Clairvoyance. Clairvoyance, from the Greek words clair, meaning clear, and voyance, meaning vision, is the ability to gain information about an object, person, location, or physical event through means other than the human senses. It differs from telepathy in that there is no transfer of information from one person to another. Current thinking among proponents of clairvoyance suggests that most people are born with clairvoyant abilities, but then start to subliminate them as their childhood training compels them to adhere to acceptable social norms. Omnilingualism. Omnilingualism is the ability to understand any form of language. It's often reported that people can speak, write, understand, and communicate in any language, including computer codes, languages that have never even been heard before, sign language, illegible words, and backward speech with little to no training at all. Certain people may even communicate with animals or be able to read body language without any error. The translation of one's native tongue, or telepathic or subliminal broadcast of one's communication intentions to the mind of others, so that one can speak one's own language and be understood by people who normally wouldn't understand that speaker. Astral projection. Astral projection is the ability to spiritually separate from your body and travel vast distances with the mind alone. This capability enables a person to send their spirit to another place in the world by keeping the body stationary at a different place. It is believed that ancient yogis possessed this power when they were in a state of samadhi, which is the highest meditation state in which unity is reached. We all have this ability, and we do subconsciously use it when we're asleep. One with this skill is able to go to astral worlds, fly, contact friends, and even hear what people are saying. The concept of astral projection has been familiar for thousands of years, dating back to ancient China and other cultures.
Aura reading. Aura reading is the psychic ability to perceive auras, normally invisible fields of energy that surround every living thing. This can be used to sense emotions, health, thoughts, or the target's moral alignment. They may also be able to sense auras surrounding inanimate objects. Aura reading is usually the manifestation of another ability, more commonly known as mediumship. Aura reading, as with most things psychic, is a lesson in patience. You may see auras right away, or within a few days of practice. You may see them initially, and then have a period of time where you don't seem to see anything. Although some people see colors almost immediately, others may practice for several months before colors start to appear.
Eidetic memory. The power to remember and recall experiences and events inhumanly well after minuscule degrees of experience. Users can remember great volumes of information in greater detail and for much longer than the average human. They can read books, listen to song lyrics, encounter people or experience events, and recall a vast amount of the details of said experience.
Sea spirits. Experts say that such people interlink among the dead and the living on a frequent basis. When a person dies, he or she departs from the world. The body remains here in this world, but the soul departs from this materialistic world and enters the spiritual world. Spiritual world is the world of dead people, and materialistic world is the living people. It is not possible for a normal person to come in contact with the spiritual world, but there are some people who are able to communicate and interact with the dead. These are the people who remain in the materialistic world but act as an interpreter between both of the worlds.
Precognition. Precognition involves the acquisition or effect of future information that cannot be deduced from presently available and normally acquired sense-based information. People who have precognition have the ability to foresee possible futures and observe what may happen. As knowledge of the future invariably causes that future to change, visions of the future are subject to frequent shifting. while not being able to select futures or travel through time. These visions may assist in possible courses of action. This ability is related to premonition and prophecies. Surveys show that precognition, particularly in dreams, is considered real by at least 1/3 of the general population.
Telepathy. Telepathy is the ability to communicate with others with the mind. Within the field of parapsychology, this is considered to be a form of ESP. Most often, telepathy occurs spontaneously in incidents of crisis where a relative or friend has been injured or killed in an accident. An individual is aware of the danger to the other person from a distance. Such information seems to come in different forms, as in thought fragments, like something has gone terribly wrong, in visions, dreams, hallucinations, and mental images. Normal humans might feel this power temporarily, but telepaths do it so often that it becomes normal for them, and beyond normal for the rest of us. Some incidents involve apparent telepathy between humans and animals.
Levitation. Levitation is the art of hovering yourself and withstanding the power of gravity. There is a chapter in the Vedas on levitation, a sort of guidelines on how to reach a state required for taking off the ground. Unfortunately, the meaning of many ancient Indic words and concepts have been irretrievably lost over the last few centuries, and therefore, the invaluable instructions cannot be translated into modern languages. The art of levitation still exists in both India and Tibet. Many scholars engaged in Oriental studies also mention the phenomenon of flying llamas. We've even seen many magicians perform this supernatural task, levitating themselves and defying gravity, and some of them have never been revealed. It's exceptional, and is apparently shown in many rare books that it can be achieved through strong will practice and guidance. Some researchers say it is a product of biogravitational fields created by a special kind of mental energy emitted by the human brain. They point out that the biogravitational field is deliberately created by a levitator, and therefore the latter can control the field and change the direction of a flight. While levitation can equate to acts of strange magic or astral projection of psychoactive ethogens, transvection usually occurs to the experience of bodily movement in defiance of gravitational laws.
Supertasters. People who experience taste with greater intensity than the rest of the population are called supertasters. The study found that some people are born with more taste buds than others, meaning they are better able to distinguish between tastes. The 5 types of taste, those being sweet, salty, bitter, sour, and umami, a supertaster generally finds bitterness to be the most perceptible. Supertasters will often dislike certain foods, particularly bitter ones, such as Brussels sprouts, cabbage, coffee, and grapefruit juice. Women, Asians, and Africans are most likely to have the increased number of the fungi form papillae that makes them supertasters.
Absolute pitch. This is the capability to recognize and replicate a sound at the exact pitch without hearing it. People having this ability can classify sounds into categories and remember that pitch. It's not simply a better ability to hear, but the ability to mentally class sounds into remembered categories. Examples of this include identifying the pitch of everyday noises such as horns, sirens, and engines, being able to sing a named note without hearing a reference, naming the tones of a chord, or naming the key signature of a song. Estimates of the portion of the population having absolute pitch range from 3% of the general population in the United States of America and Europe to 8% of those in Japan. About 70% of musicians have absolute pitch altogether. Psychometry. Psychometry, translated from Greek as measure of the soul, is the unique ability to read information from objects by touch or sight. For example, a psychometrist may hold a watch or wallet belonging to a person they do not know, and by concentrating on the object, gather information about that person's past, present or future. It is believed some sort of psychometry is shown in the work for detectives or crime investigations. Telekinesis. Telekinesis is mind over matter, and it is the ability to move or manipulate objects with the mind. The position normally taken by scientists and skeptics is that any apparent evidence of this ability is the result of fraud. As we get stronger and better at it, we might be able to move heavier things. Telekinesis takes great focus, and it would help to meditate and practice frequently, though it's not required. A theory on telekinesis is that energy flows where our attention goes, and our attention goes where our focus goes. One fact is, we are all made of the same energy, so we must simply connect with whatever we are trying to move. Telekinesis is one of the bases of many powers that are based on controlling and manipulating. It may evolve to the point that a telekinetic can control anything at a subatomic level. Telekinesis events have been recorded throughout the world, but is often dismissed as special camera effects or magic tricks, and thus many people do not believe its true existence.
This video is bound to receive a lot of fraud and skeptics believing the whole process to be a complete joke. But believe it or not, there have been a lot of documentaries and valid video proof of these so-called rare instances, yet they remain classified until the government sees fit to release it. Why aren't there more news cases like this, you ask? Because there are several reasons you don't see this sort of stuff. First off, because the world is filled with people who thinks this is all just fiction, which greatly reduces the amount of people who practice psionics. They will outright refuse to believe in the paranormal. Secondly, because it takes incredible amounts of training. For some people, it can take months or years just to get the basics down to a novice level. The training takes actual dedication, which is incredibly rare these days. Not many people would sit and train hours on end, especially when they have a family to care for or bills to pay. And finally, can you imagine a world where everyone could use extraordinary powers in everyday life? Well, it's kind of what you saw in the Avengers. The whole world would crumble.
Remember, if you have a unique ability, try not to express yourself too much, in fear of being taken away, and never see your family and friends again by unforeseen political and scientific enemies.